Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode. Glad to have you here with us. I'm really excited this week to bring on a woman who is doing something really cool that I think is really necessary when it comes to our skin health, and that is working with your cycle and skin health. So I've had other people on the podcast talking about syncing up, your exercise with your cycle, syncing up your work and lifestyle with your cycle. So of course, why wouldn't your skin go through these different phases too, right? So we're going to talk today with Rachel Kraus, who's the owner and founder of Dirty Peach Skin, an innovative skincare company that uses the power of clean products and cycle syncing to kick hormonal acne to the curb. We formulate products to be safe for women's hormones and fertility, and they believe in changing the beauty industry by making skincare more about women's health and less about beauty. Rachel has been formulating products for close to a decade and recently found herself in the women's health industry after having multiple issues with hormonal acne and period problems, all of which was solved by her own products and cycle syncing. You can find her at dirtypeachskin.com. Welcome, Rachel.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is so cool. As I was saying, it makes perfect sense and it's not really out there, right? I mean, you created this because you didn't find it, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah. I started kind of looking and I was like, there has to be something that talks about women's health and menstrual cycle after I started hearing about cycle syncing. And I was like, this doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I sort of already started doing it for myself because I was already in the habit of kind of tinkering around with my own products.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, other women have to need this. Like, I cannot be the only one who's struggling and having these questions. Like, it can't just be me. So
absolutely.
That's kind of where it came up from.
Well, and you mentioned acne in the bio, which is such a big thing for so many women, whether sort of you're, younger. I mean, a lot of times early in puberty, or even all of puberty, a lot of us will deal with acne and maybe we'll grow out of it in our 20s, maybe not, and then sometimes it's gone for a while and then boom, you hit your 40s and perimenopause and it comes back. And so it's so frustrating for so many women, particularly you think of maybe acne breakouts right around your period, right? Or right before. So let's break down a little bit, maybe, sort of what acne is all about for people that don't know, and then go into these different cycles that lead us up to our period and when things get a little crazy.
So yeah, acne is something that a lot of women struggle with. And like you said, especially in those younger years, right when you're about to go through this puberty spout, when you're starting to get your period. And for a long time, we did not realize that this was really connected to our hormones. Mm-hmm. And we thought it just had to do with oil levels, which in a lot of ways it does. But a lot of hormones control those oil levels in your skin. So especially closer to your period, where a lot of your hormones are dropping in their levels, especially estrogen, which is known as the sebum fighting hormone. Sebum is that oil that is produced naturally by your skin. And when you have too much oil being produced, too much of that sebum being produced, things get a little crazy and you start having clogged pores, breakouts, a lot of sensitivity. And so during your period, it's very natural for you to have a little bit more of those breakouts, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be prevented or dealt with in a more medical way. And so there's a lot of different types of acne, and what we really deal with is those hormonal breakouts that have to do with what your hormones are going through during your cycle and how we can really nurture them and help to keep your skin healthy. So a lot of times, like I said, when your estrogen levels are really low and you start to break out, your skin barrier is also going to be a lot more sensitive. It's going to be a little bit more vulnerable. You're going to have a lot more red spots. You don't want to be using ingredients that are over exfoliating or have a lot of fragrances or really even just harsh ingredients in them. Whereas when you're ovulating, your skin is going to be a little bit tougher. It's going to have a little bit more of a glow to it because you've got higher estrogen levels and your body's just working a lot more optimally for you while you are ovulating. And so you're going to need things that you can do a little bit harsher ingredients on it, where it's using those acids to help exfoliate and really bring out that glowing skin and being able to help carry that natural healthiness into the other stages of your cycle.
Nice. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So for those of you that haven't, heard about the different sort of phases of the cycle, let's maybe break that down for them, So, and when we say cycle, we mean the entire thing. A lot of times women will think that's just your period, but it's actually your entire menstrual cycle.
Yeah. And that's the really cool thing is when we learned about periods, we thought it was just, it's just your period.
Yeah.
And then like ovulating was like right after that. I mean, that's at least what I learned.
Yeah. I feel like I don't even understand ovulating for years, like,
oh yeah, it's crazy. Like how much detail there is in it.
Yeah.
And we just kind of learned this very surface level portion of it. So for those of you guys who don't know, there are 4 different phases of your cycle. You've got your menstrual, you've got follicular, ovulation, and then luteal. And so during these 4 different phases, your body is going through these different changes really to help get you pregnant. That's kind of like its main goal.
Yes. Even if you don't want to get pregnant, we want our hormones to be working in the way that they are trying to get you pregnant. Yes.
Yes. And so there are these different rises and falls of different types of hormones. And it's really just changing your body through all of these really different, crazy, and incredible ways. And so while your body is going through these changes, your skin is also going to be going through these changes of rising and lowering estrogen, oestrogen levels, progesterone, all of these things that are going to be affecting your everyday like wellness and just being.
Yeah. So when we're talking, so you've got your period, and some people lump that a little bit in with follicular, but really it's kind of easier to think of your period, and then essentially your follicles are starting to grow and do their business, heading towards ovulation after your period ends. So let's talk about that stage first. So what should people be focusing on with their skincare in that stage?
In that follicular stage? So your follicular stage can also be kind of like split into 2 parts because you've got the part where you're coming right out of your period and your skin specifically is going to still be a little bit more on the sensitive side, but it's going to be moving towards like the tougher, more glowy side of things in that second half of it. So that first half, those really like 3 to 5 days after your period, you're still going to be wanting to like using something very gentle on your skin, definitely wearing SPF like nobody's business.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah.
And not over exfoliating. Don't try and use any sort of like crazy facial masks. Because a lot of times those just break down your top skin layer. And then in that second half, your skin is going to start to feel a little bit stronger, a little bit more firm. You're going to have a little bit more secretion of like collagen throughout your hormones.
We like collagen.
Yes, we do. And so there's really those 2 parts to it. And then that second half leading up to ovulation, you can start to use some more chemical exfoliants, some more acids, throw in a little bit more fun serums in there, really start like using this as a way to like test what's really going to help and be good for your skin. If you are like 25 or older, I would suggest using a retinoid during this time to really help to provide more support. Like I said, to be able to help carry you throughout the rest of your cycle. So yeah.
Gotcha. And so then when you're in your luteal, are you sort of heading back towards the sensitivity at that point?
Yes. So yeah, that's when things start to decrease a little bit more. And you're going to want to be taking a little bit more care of your skin in these stages, but you can also still like add in some serums there to help provide more support because you're not quite in the stage of like total sensitivity. You're just kind of heading there. Gotcha. So again, you want to be able to use products that are going to be supporting you until you get to that part where you really just need to be in a more calm, like caring mode versus like support and prepping up for, this larger event.
Gotcha. So when you say serums, like for example, what kind of serums?
So I really like niacinamide serums. Something that's really simple. Sometimes you see serums and they're like, oh, we do brightening and tightening and like blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it gets really dicey because you're adding so many different ingredients And it can honestly be a little bit unstable.
Mm-hmm.
And unless
Mm-hmm.
you are like an expert in ingredients, it can be really hard to know what to use.
Mm.
So the first thing I would suggest is try not to mix ingredients
Mm.
almost ever in
Okay.
your cycle, unless you know like what you're using.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to use stuff that's a little bit brightening,
Okay.
or like I said, a retinoid in that more ovulation,
Mm-hmm.
something that's going to help to tighten your skin a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just like a squalene kind of serum that's just going to be providing a lot of moisturizing to really help and prepare your skin for excess of oil and less
Mm.
of moisture.
Okay. So I feel like I see a lot of like vitamin C stuff on the market now and like vitamin A stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Vitamin C is really tricky.
Okay.
It can be a really unstable ingredient, especially
That
when
makes sense.
mixed with retinol, which is
Mm-hmm.
vitamin A.
Mm-hmm.
And it can also get a little dicey in the sun. So
Mm.
I would suggest for people that are in really sunny areas during the summertime, I personally don't use a lot of vitamin C. I
Mm-hmm.
do have one serum that I use, and it's like an oil serum,
Mm-hmm.
but I only use it at nighttime
Gotcha.
because it's going to be on there. It's the only thing that's going to be on my skin. It helps to moisturize. It's also got some jojoba oil in there,
Mm-hmm.
which is the best oil in my opinion for your
Okay.
skin.
Okay.
It matches the same texture and consistency that your skin naturally produces as oil. And so it really
Mm.
helps to moisturize and just condition your skin really well.
Mm-hmm.
But vitamin C is one of those things that's like, unless you really know what you're doing, I'm a little skeptical of using it myself.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it can be hard to kind of know that balance.
Yeah. I have just noticed that being, especially in sort of the natural skincare market, you see that a lot these days. So I was curious about
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something that just came up that you were talking about that I wanted to ask you about. It'll come back to me. But let's talk a little bit about, oh no, it's ingredients. That's where I wanted to go. So, ingredients, and actually I'm going to put a little mark in this because this is where I want to go next. Like washing your face with oil, since you were talking about jojoba, I want to touch on that. But let's talk about ingredients first. And just, so many products have like 40 ingredients in them, right? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what is going on with that. And then also sort of how you work in your skincare line.
So I like to have my own little rule that I use when I'm looking at stuff. I don't like any more than 20, and that's kind of even pushing it as far as how long that ingredient list is.
Yeah.
Because you can use apps like, I think it's like EWG.
The environmental working group. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a lot of different websites out there that help you to check what the ingredients are.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have like a list of 40 different things,
right, and things you
even
can't pronounce,
if you know what you're talking about, it's like impossible.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't know.
Yeah.
So I try and stay away from things that have 40 different things listed. Because one, as a formulator, I just know that's not necessary.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. A lot of times.
Is it a lot of additives kind of thing to stabilize or something?
Yes and no. It really just depends on the product. A lot of times when you have, especially serums that can have a lot of stuff in it, they're basically trying to cut their costs by adding in ingredients that like you'll recognize as, oh, that's the really good stuff.
They're like avocado.
Yes, but there's only like 0.01% avocado in there.
Yeah.
And they're trying to like I said, cut their costs and put really cheap stuff in there as well.
Yeah.
While still like giving the idea that there's the expensive good stuff in there.
Right.
That's the first thing that's kind of like shoots up a red flag for me. And then the other thing is, it's hard to know, even as a formulator, how well all of these different ingredients work together.
Yeah.
Because it is chemistry. I mean, that's what it is. When you're creating something, you're working with different chemicals. Sometimes it sounds like a scary word, but it is a necessary evil. And it can work really well for you. But there's only so much you can know with all of these different 40 ingredients, how one will mix with the other.
Right.
And so that kind of makes me very wary. a lot of times.
Yeah. I think a lot of times people forget too that, your skin is our biggest organ and you
Yes.
absorb everything from it. Right. And
Mhm.
so it's just as important, if not more important than what you put in your mouth, I mean,
Yeah.
and so I think, when we see these, there's so many greenwashing products out there now, right? That
Mhm.
it'll be like 75% organic ingredients or something like that. And then you look at the label and you're like, there's so many different chemicals in there and things you've never could pronounce or hear of, you're like, that's not good. That's
Yep.
not
I
good.
was in Target the other day, and I
Mhm.
love going to Target, right?
Oh, I
And I
bet.
like looking at their
Mm-hmm.
like beauty section and
Mm-hmm.
their skincare section. And I just like looking at the labels, and then I like looking on the back of the labels
Yeah.
to
Mm-hmm.
see how many of these brands are really what they say they are.
Yeah.
And there's very few
Oh,
that
yeah.
are what they say they are. And it really bothers me because it's this beautiful packaging and it's like so well written and marketed. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this is terrible.
So
And
bad.
so much of these products are messing with women's endocrine systems,
Yeah.
which in turn are messing with women's fertility.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's just,
Yeah.
it makes me sad.
Yep. And, one of the things that I focus on a lot in this podcast is, dealing with symptoms of estrogen dominance, right?
Yes.
Fibroids, ovarian cysts, polyps, tender breasts. I mean, the list goes on. And
yeah.
this is one of the many things that, women don't realize do impact their hormones, do impact this kind of rising estrogen levels, because these things are xenoestrogens that show
Yes,
up
they
in
mimic
products.
estrogen in your body.
Yeah.
Which is insane. That
Yeah.
The other thing that really irritates me is that the FDA
Mhm.
and other like organizations that are supposed to, help eliminate these things,
Mhm.
they aren't.
No, not even
And
a little bit.
yeah, it just
Yeah.
makes me really sad. Like even retinol, something that is notoriously such a really great ingredient,
Mhm.
it also has side effects of, because it's regenerating your skin cells
Mhm.
so quickly, especially if you're in the sun, it has an extra caution of skin cancer being caused.
Yeah.
And most people don't know this. They just
Yeah.
use retinol because they've been told it's really great, and it is,
Yeah.
but nobody tells you the possible side effects of these
Yeah.
things.
Well,
And
and
it's banned in the UK for this
for
reason,
that
you
reason.
know?
Well, in there, I don't remember the name of it, but there's that medication for acne that I remember was huge.
Accutane.
Accutane, right? Which is just really high dose vitamin A, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I know people that I grew up with that had it, like it permanently affected their skin in a negative way. Like it got
Yeah.
rid of their acne, but then like they've been paying for it ever since.
Yeah. And when you also look at birth control,
Yeah.
a lot of people get on birth control at a very young age
Mm-hmm.
because they have bad acne.
Yep.
And it's supposed
I
to
did.
help solve it.
Yep.
Yes, but
Mhm.
it doesn't solve it. A lot of times it might get rid of it, but it's just kind of turning it off
Yep.
and offering these fake alternatives. And it's
Yep.
not actually solving anything. It's just
Right.
kind of putting this
Right.
band-aid over it.
They're like, we're going to shut down your own hormones. We're going to bring in this exogenous hormones,
Yeah.
which, I could go on forever about what those do. But yeah, it's, it's our sort of band-aid approach, unfortunately, but we're not even taught, and that's why people like you are so important to be out there teaching women about this, and sort of the layers of what goes into hormonal health, because it's not just
Yeah.
one thing. People are like, what can I do to help this thing? And I'm like, sit down.
Yes.
We're going to talk for a little
much
while.
that goes into it.
There's so much that go into it. So what are some ingredients that you are really like, okay, this is like on the do not, do list that people should look out for?
There are a few. The first one I think is kind of like this hot button one. It's sodium lauryl sulfate.
Yes.
Really anything that sulfates, because they do really, really mess with your endocrine system.
Mm-hmm.
And they are so oversaturated in the market.
Mm.
I mean, you see sodium lauryl sulfate in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be like a surfactant, which is like the cleansing agent
Mm-hmm.
in products.
Okay.
And sometimes I see it in a moisturizer. And I'm like, why is this
Why are
here?
there? Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Same thing with alcohol. Why is that in a lot of moisturizers?
So alcohol is, I hate alcohol. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, because the only reason it's in there is to help promote like a certain consistency. And there are alternative like ingredients that you can use, but they're just more expensive.
Of course.
and people don't want to spend money.
Yeah. I'm always so annoyed when I see alcohol in a moisturizer. I'm like, that makes no sense to me.
It's
exactly.
Counterintuitive.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to find something. I went out looking for like a body lotion the other day. Couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
That didn't have alcohol in it. And not just like one type of alcohol, but like there's like 4 different types of alcohol. Like, this is not.
Yeah. You're like, what are you doing? You're overloading it. So what are some other ingredients that people should hate?
There are different types of ingredients that kind of, they're basically formaldehydes that are terrible for you.
Yeah.
And I can't think of their names off the top of my head, but I can always send you them.
Yeah, send them and I'll put them in the notes. Yeah. Because I know people like to have like certain things to look out for, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That are formaldehydes. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know why people put them in there. I don't know what, like, technical use they have in the product, but they're in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look back at even, like, I can't think of the name of it now that my grandmother used to use, but the white stuff, that's been around forever. It's in like a blue jar. I can't think of that. Noxzema, like I think it's the original Noxzema. Anyways, like somebody had brought me some when I was in the hospital, and it's like very nice and cooling, but like I looked at the ingredients and I was like, oh my God, this stuff is horrible. And I know that they haven't like changed their ingredients, for 80, 90 years or whatever. So it's like, I feel like it was like the advent of chemicals. They're like, let's just throw it all in together, like, and just they keep doing it.
Yeah. And then the last one, and I think this one gets said a lot, but fragrance.
Yes.
Because fragrance can be anything. It could mean anything. It's got like a list of 300 things that you're allowed to categorize as fragrance. Not a fragrance.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. Like fragrance could be something very innocent, but it could also be something that is very not innocent.
Right.
And so that's why I don't buy anything with fragrance in it. The CDC actually, headquartered in Atlanta, does not allow products that have fragrance listed in their ingredient list in their base.
Oh, interesting. Because they know.
they know.
Yeah.
They don't want to do anything.
They're not letting us know, but they know. Yeah. So I want to go back to using oil as a face wash and hear what you think about that.
I love it.
Okay. Cool.
I know for a long time, like early 2000s, everything was no oil.
Yeah.
No oil.
No poo for no shampoo and no oil. Yeah. Anyways, good.
And I hated that trend because I'm like, oil is like,
it's life.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, it's like oil takes away oil, right?
Okay.
And it also, it's like specifically jojoba oil. That's my personal favorite. I sometimes literally just put some on and I wear it to bed. Because it's just so incredible.
Yeah.
Basically what it can do with oil cleansing, it can help remove makeup, dirt, sweat, whatever is kind of left on the surface and inside of your pores, and make way for a gentle cleanser to go behind that to really deep clean out.
In the deep clean.
It helps it's like a carrying mechanism.
Gotcha.
It things out.
So on its own, it's not necessarily enough. You want to add a cleanser after kind of opening up with the oil. Okay.
You could always do it alone, not necessarily like as a cleanser. So use it as the primary to remove all of the dirt. And then as a secondary to keep on as a moisturizer. That's not necessarily a bad technique. I always suggest to try and do a double cleansing because whatever that oil doesn't carry out, the second cleanser can.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it just kind of helps for a more productive and effective clean.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And so
I have actually done oil cleansing for years, but then I usually follow it up with like a hydrating rose thing that I'll kind of like cleanse over whatever. Cause I have rosacea. And so I have to, I definitely have sensitive skin. But I'm always like, am I getting enough cleanser happening here? So that makes sense to me that going in with a second round would be a good option. Yeah. Any tips on rosacea since I brought it up?
Rosacea can be a little difficult just because it is much more of like that medical issue, but jojoba oil, honestly, I really think it's just like such an incredible tool. Whenever I get hyperpigmentation
Mm-hmm.
and different dark spots or really red blotchy spots on
Mm-hmm.
my skin, I try and leave that on overnight, and I
Mm-hmm.
use it, for a period of a week, and it helps almost just dissolve that issue right away,
Nice.
which is really awesome. But I would
Mm-hmm.
also suggest just trying to make sure that the skin is very well hydrated,
Mm-hmm.
and using things, especially with no alcohol in it or
Mm-hmm.
fragrance, like really staying away from those just bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wouldn't exfoliate, like using chemical
Yeah.
exfoliants, more than twice a month.
Yeah. I never, I mean, I know it's probably not good, but I don't ever do them because it's just like so harsh on my skin,
Yes.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
some skin, we all have different levels of like skin barrier
Mm-hmm.
thickness.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes, people can use it once a week. I don't usually
Mm-hmm.
suggest that,
Mm-hmm.
especially during, your luteal and menstrual phase,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just going to make matters worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like to use it like when I'm ovulating. I leave it on like 10 minutes. The Ordinary
Mm-hmm.
has some really, really cool stuff,
Mm.
for very affordable prices.
Mm-hmm.
And I leave it on for like 10 minutes. I rinse it
Nice.
off, and then I use jojoba oil right after to help
Mm-hmm.
replenish. And
Mm.
so it's all about balance, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so what do you think about castor oil? Because that's such a like hot thing right now. And is that good for cleaning skin or no?
Castor oil is okay.
Okay.
It's a
Mhm.
very cheap oil.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
And
it's
I
not
know there are
bad.
definitely levels of what you can get out there,
Yes.
yeah, of
Yeah.
what's
So
good
it's not
quality.
like bad,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be really hard to find a really high quality one.
Mm-hmm.
I personally have not loved it when I've used it on my skin.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Another one that I really like is actually sweet almond oil. So if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have any like nut allergies,
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy using that one. It's a little bit thicker, and
Mm-hmm.
I like to use it to make my own masks at home. Just get some like
Mm.
bentonite clay,
Mm-hmm.
mix it on in there,
Nice.
and it's simultaneously stripping of oil with the clay and
Mm-hmm.
also replenishing with the sweet almond oil. And I
Nice.
think it's a really great balance.
Yeah.
So that's the secondary one that I use most often.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about your products
Mhm.
and, just what you have going on in terms of the different phases and all of that. Like, I think I saw you have a package, right? That has for all the different phases.
Yes, yeah, we do. Right now, we're only offering cleansers. We really
Mm-hmm.
just want to kind of spread awareness with it before we go
Mm-hmm.
super deep and crazy and
Mm-hmm.
with everything.
Yeah.
So we offer 4 different cleansers. We also have, like I said, a package on our website that puts it all together. You get a sweet little discount when you
Mm-hmm.
buy all of them together, as well as a guide to
Mm-hmm.
help you like figure out how to use the products and also how to start cycle syncing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Nice.
kind of like two-dimensional.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so we have the 4 different cleansers. We have a jelly cleanser that's made for your menstrual cycle. It really helps to strip, and it's very gentle,
Mm-hmm.
and also helps to moisturize really well.
Nice.
And then for your follicular phase, we have a clay foaming cleanser. So it'll start off as a powder. It's got some rose, kale, and clay in there, and like a
Mm.
very gentle surfactant.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll help to kind of replenish some pigment into your skin very nicely with that clay color. And it
Nice.
also has very, very, very slight exfoliation
Okay.
to kind of help, rejuvenate your skin
Get that
after
dead
it's,
skin off.
yes. And then we have for your ovulatory phase, we have an oil cleanser, mainly
Nice.
jojoba oil.
Mm-hmm.
And that just really helps to, again, set your skin up for success later in your cycle, where in your ovulation phase, you're going to have the most glowing skin. You're going to feel really healthy and great. And this just kind of helps set you up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a green tea gentle foaming cleanser for that luteal phase.
Nice. Okay. So people can buy those individually or they can buy it all together in a package.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got those 2 different options.
Yeah.
So a lot of people just want to use one, like the jelly cleanser, just for their period, especially if you're just starting out.
Yeah.
And you have no idea what's going on with your cycle.
Right.
You know when your period is.
Right.
It's pretty
point.
obvious.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so a lot of people will just start with that one.
Yeah.
And then once they start to figure out their cycle a little bit more, they kind of move up a little bit.
Yeah. So I love that you include, teaching how to track your cycle. This is something that I personally did not do until about 5 years ago. I'm like, ladies start much younger, and actually on the upcoming hormone summit, there will be an interview all about how to track your cycle. But it's amazing, right? For your overall hormone health to understand your body on a different level. Like your body tells you so much, right? When you start tracking this, like it's fantastically amazing, and, I'm not against birth control in the fact that it obviously has given women, the choice in their life to be able to have children or not, and to be able to do, to live in the way that they choose. And we have this really natural way that, you can only get pregnant for a very short time in the month. And if you start doing this tracking of your cycle, then you're able to figure out when that is.
Yes.
And really have even more control in so many ways, right? While still working with your own hormones. And you brought up fertility issues earlier, and I see that all the time too, from all the stuff, from the birth control pills, from the environmental issues, from all of it, and so really the earlier you can start on tracking your cycle, right, the better, and working with your hormones as they are, especially if you want to have kids later in your life, So, are there any things that you have found, in your research around skin that you also feel like, oh, this particular food or this particular supplement is good around, that phase?
A lot of supplements won't directly affect your skin unless you're already like just kind of taking care of yourself. Especially a myth that really bothers me is collagen supplements.
Yes. Oh yeah. People think it goes right to making collagen.
Yes. And it doesn't.
No, I'm like, it's broken down in your stomach, just like every other food, and your body will use it where it's needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's always my pet peeve. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And I like marketing. I fell for it a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
I started taking them and I was like, I'm not really noticing.
You're like, nothing's happening here. Yeah.
So not necessarily anything to take. I try and take things like, magnesium, vitamin D to just promote overall health, because overall health is really going to affect your skin. There's not a lot of things that will really directly affect your skin. I really like to take vitamin E to help promote elasticity as well as just hydration. A lot of times it helps, promote different healthier oils in your skin. And so,
yeah. And I'll just put in a plug here for gut health, being a huge intricate part of skin health too. Right. And I don't know that you can't really get hormonally balanced without getting that gut in check, and I think the same is true. Like, and skin, I think, is really hard for people because it can be sort of the last thing that gets better, right? Because you're working on your gut healing, you're, getting maybe some of the nutrients that you've been missing, and your body's using them for like the more vital things first, right? And so then it can take 3 months or more for the skin to start really looking different than it was before.
Yes. And I will also say, this is slight tangent. When I first got off of hormonal birth control, I broke out like crazy. Like, it was ridiculous. So that is like the post hormonal birth control syndrome, right?
Yes.
Your body's like, okay, what the heck's going on? Like, what are we doing here? And so I would say to women that are thinking about getting off or have just gotten off, like, stay calm. Like, it's gonna regulate out again as long as you're taking care of yourself.
100%.
And I think, there's just a lot of, especially because it's so external and everybody sees it right away, we can be really insecure about our skin. And that's something that we really want to change about. Like, we want to make it less about what we look like and more about how we feel. Because having a few pimples like during your period is completely normal.
Yeah.
We really want to make sure that your skin is healthy.
Yeah.
And that it is well taken care of. And in turn that, like, you are well taken care of. And so part of our mission is to really help women feel comfortable in who they are and really just take control of their health and stop being so focused on what we look like.
Yeah. Yes. Amen. And that's such, I mean, as I get older, and whatever, all the things that I've gone through and the changes to my body from surgeries and things like that, I do appreciate, I appreciate the time that we're in, that we do have many more role models talking in this way, right? Despite still all the Instagram filters and et cetera, there's, you can find really good people to sort of, look up to in this arena that we didn't used to have. And, absolutely, like, taking care of yourself, but also having fun in life, which I know can be really tough right now in lots of ways for a lot of people, but that is going to show up too on your skin. Right? Like your joy in life. And, stress plays such a huge role in all of this too, and in our hormonal balance too. So, getting all of those ingredients and really pulling back on looking at yourself to just pick on your body. Right. I mean, that's what so many women do, and I totally get it. I've done that for so much of my life, and with skin, especially if you have something like rosacea or, that's really obvious. Like, I get it. And the more I worried about it, the worse it was, for sure. It's like pulling back on it's always a good idea. So did you get on birth control because of acne initially? Was that your reasoning?
So I actually got on birth control when I got married, and there was the possibility of having children. I was like, not ready for that.
Yeah.
But I was always like really pushed to get on it when I was younger, because I always had a really irregular cycle. And at first the doctor was like, oh, it's completely normal. Like, I go like 6 months without having a period.
Wow.
I was like, I don't think this is normal. And they're like, no, it's normal. I was like, okay, whatever you say. And then when my period would come around, it was just like, it was horrible.
It was
Didn't want to go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. And so I was kind of finally open to the idea of getting on it as like a form of, at first I thought it was, regulating my cycle and doing all of this different stuff. And then when I started really researching it, I was like, oh, we need to get off this like as soon as we can, because I was lucky and I was only on it for like 3 years, where a lot of women are on it for like a decade.
Or longer.
It's insane. And I was just at the CVS Minute Clinic like 2 weeks ago. And the lady was like, oh, like asking me about birth control, like if I was on it. And I was like, no, like we're just doing like the FAM method. And
they're like, what?
Everything. I don't think she knew what it was. And she also was like really trying to prescribe me birth control. I was like, no, I know. Oh, this is the CVS Minute Clinic. Like, no,
you're all back off, man. I'm just trying to like pick up my cold medicine. Like, what are you doing?
I thought maybe I had strep, and she's like, oh, you need birth control for this. I was like, no, please no. So
it drives me crazy, but that's little by little, we're out there educating, right? So that hopefully more and more people. And I think at least now there's starting to be studies on sort of some of the long-term impacts of birth control, pills. And there's more questioning. I remember there was like a big, I think it was in like New York Times last year, or, something big like that, like talking about this. And so at least the discussion's starting to happen, but it's going to be, it's going to be a hot minute until
it's a little while
around. Right. So, well, this was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge on skincare, and like, so cool.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So cool that you started this line. Do you plan to like start bringing in more stuff past cleansers at some point?
Yes. I would love to, hopefully in the next kind of like 3 years, have just a full line for each phase. Like really have it set up where, we wouldn't have an exfoliant for, your menstrual phase, but we would for that ovulation phase, and really just make it super easy for women to know, okay, I don't have to really even think about it. I just know, this is all of the research that has been done. And I just want to really make it simple for people.
I like it. People like that too, for sure.
Yes.
So for now they can go to dirtypeachskin.com and order up that kit. And that's definitely on my list to do here this weekend, because I'm super excited about trying it out. And I'm like, I love anything that helps me along with my cycle. So, and especially skin, Yeah. So, thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I had a really great time. And I was so happy to be able to talk and, share information and just be a part of this conversation.
Absolutely. And people should follow you on Instagram too, which is
Yes.
also at Dirty Peach Skin.
Yeah. So it's like
Yes. Yeah.
dirty.peach.skin.
Gotcha. Okay. Because you have lots of fun little videos on there and reels and everything and educating people
Yeah.
on all this stuff. So it's a really powerful, thing that you're doing. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, you guys, I'll see you next time.